people often on the dais, and Jai to everyone. So also great thanks to Jatpak Thought Mandal, who in fact is the reason for which we all are together here in another ways. So I think that always we were having undelivered speeches and voices. Especially in Calicut, there are sacred groves belonging to Dalit and subaltern communities, where you could also see all the demons in cotton court who are gods for us, who are having very long tongues being worshipped. Even if you come to a subaltern goddess like Kali, you could see long tongues. So I think that they have long tongues not to have blood, or not they are thirsty of having blood, but rather they were denied the right to speak at a time. So those are symbols of undelivered speeches which are being worshipped by our communities. So I think that to all those undelivered voices which we now have a very long tongue in front of us, and that tongue is translated to French also, and that tongue of ours is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar definitely. So like I'm quite afraid of French language, because when I was in IIT Madras, we were having an elective course on French, and that was the class which I bunked the most. Because all of my friends coming from Savarna backgrounds were having access to French language in another means, at least to the cartoons and at least to the serials series which they often sees. So for me it was very difficult, because I'm having a community language. I have learned Malayalam, I have learned English. Already I'm having triple mean in that way, triple merit in that way. And again I have to go and know about this fourth language. So even then I also know that I could see those slave ancestors of mine who were once carried as slaves into various parts of India and other parts by the French traders who came to here. So my ancestors was taken to various places to this language as slaves. But today, a text written by a person like Dr. B.R. Ambedkar reaches the same language not as slaves but as theory and critique. And I think that it's very important. So this is not a mere translation, but I see it as a translation of a social crime into a global language. So this is very important in the current scenario, because I think that this doesn't, it's not really benefiting the Indian intellectual spectrum, or it's not really a happy moment for the people who believes in Ambedkarism. Rather, I think that the French society is going to benefit from this a lot. Because as you know that Islamophobia has been a very, very crucial issue when it comes to France, and we have seen people from Muslim community, journalists who have been shot dead. So I also think that your nation is also going to get benefited by the translation of this work into French. Rather than Ambedkar spreading around, I also see that your community is benefiting. So we have this community in Kerala known as Stolen Aikar, which is one of the most primitive community among the tribal communities of Asia. So whenever there is a particular bird which comes, which is known as Alayakki, and a particular fern which is known as Alayakki Tave sprouts when this bird comes. And how the children over there start counting is like, they would count the birds' eggs as Ive undu and Engi undu. Ive undu means one for the mother bird, and the Engi undu means one for me. So if there are 10 eggs, 5 for the mother bird and 5 for me. But never in the ecological epistemology of India, this has been accounted as a credible knowledge. So I think that just like they counts one for us and one for you, this ignore is a matter of one for the community there and one for the Indian community. So I see it in similar ways of giving and taking. And I also feel that as Ambedkar is becoming a global thinker, this is very important, because we are in a post-secular space where right-wing forces across various global nations are using heritage as a particular site to reinforce fascism and negotiate religion. So in such a post-secular era where heritage is being used globally as a space to reinforce fascism, I think that Ambedkar's global philosophy, which says that hierarchies equated as culture must be identified and must be abolished, must be annihilated, is very important. So this framework will definitely help us to identify and rethink about the strategies in a global arena also. So wherever religion is used or wherever fascism is used to sanctify hierarchy, and instead of scriptures, this going back to past or heritage is being used as a social law to reinforce the social law. Ambedkar's framework in a global context is very relevant, and I think that see that in a post-secular era, this is very important to translate Ambedkar's work globally because of the pattern we have all over India, all over the globe. So now I would like to pull out some parts of the works of Annihilation of Caste, which would be really interesting to read at Indian and Kerala context. So Ambedkar clearly mentions in the work that social reform in India has few friends and many critics. So this also comes into account to the anti-caste people who are, or Ambedkarites who are in India. We have very few friends and many critics per se. But I was wondering all of a sudden when Meenakshi, a person belonging to the Savarkarna community, I have no objection to her. I am happy that people from Savarna community are also coming against caste. But her criticism on caste, I was just looking at all the comments which are coming. I couldn't see slut shaming. I couldn't see someone coming and saying you are a colony piece. I couldn't see someone coming and saying you are a reservation material. I couldn't see anything. But these has been voiced by the Dalit intellectual community for the past 20-30 years. So just like Ambedkar says in the preface of this work, as who is being counted as the person having knowledge or who is a Pandit in the Indian society. Similarly, in the anti-caste allyship also, I think that there are matters of privileges, there are matters of who could voice as an anti-caste face. So it matters who has to be that anti-caste Pandit in the Indian context when we actually look at it. And just like Ambedkar says that about the movements, we could see that when Salt Satyagraha happened, we all know that it was celebrated as a very good political reform movement in Indian independence. But we could see at the same time when Shivaraman at Palakkad, who was murdered just for asking salt in Malayalam, which has to be asked as Pulichadu by the Irava community. So just by asking salt, he was murdered. But no Salt Satyagrahas got hurt by the murder of this particular person. So nowhere in the history of Salt Satyagraha you could see an Irava person assaulted and getting murdered from Palakkad. So this is the epistemology of political social reform movements in India in another way. We could also see when it comes to the production of knowledge, when Jallianwala Bagh is being celebrated, and 7 years before when thousands of people belonging to Bhil community have given their blood in Mangar massacre, which is never accounted. When you could have Mangal Pandey as the first martyr, and when Koili is never been accounted as even a martyr. So martyrship also matters in another ways. So when Bhima Koregan is never been accounted as a part of the independence movement. So similarly, just like Ambedkar says that there was Indian National Congress two bundles of social reformist movement and the movement of the political reform movement, I could also see when it comes to Kerala context, there is a new bundle, and that is the bundle of Ayyappa Sangamam, which is being celebrated by the liberal left government here. So not only the social reform movement's bundles has been distracted, in the recent times we are having construction of new bundles in line with the right-wing politics. So that's a new kind of bundles which are being emerging these days. So Ambedkar's understanding of how social reform movements have been failed has to be revisited also in this particular instance, I think. And also coming to Ambedkar's view on this work on how this particular success of the fellow human Indian never becomes the success of the fellow Indians, and their failure are not seen as our failures. I could see when Vandana Kataria from Haridwar, when she failed in the Indian women's hockey team in Olympic semi-final, we could see crackers being bursted by the all nationalists in India. So this clearly proves what Ambedkar had once told, that one caste enjoys singing a hymen of hate against another caste, even if you say that I'm a proud Indian per se. We could also look at how these Indian notions of poverty, EWS, and the politics of reservation system with regard to economic reservations where Ambedkar says that if a Hindu is seen to starve rather than to take new occupations not assigned to his caste, the reason to be found is the caste system. So we could actually see the EWS debate with the economic debate which Ambedkar is putting forth in his work. So also when it comes to an AI era, I truly think that there are matters of casteism which are annihilation of caste is in another way, annihilation of distracting caste also in cyberspaces is also rather important. Recently, my friends were saying that whether you believe in ghosts, and the reply I give to them is I do. I do. Even being an Ambedkar, I believe in ghosts because they all say that caste is dead and I can see this ghost everywhere. Just like Ambedkar says that you can see it as a monster everywhere. So you could see that recently I was looking at this Shadi.com where they say that no alcohol and no Dalits. So that's how a particular matrimonial ad was run. Even if you look at cure spaces which are being celebrated at liberal spaces. Recently I encountered in a cure dating app a guy from Savarna community who told that he believes in untouchability and he won't allow people belonging to SC/ST communities to enter his house. So suddenly I told that I am a Govan Brahmin and I won't allow Malayali Brahmins to enter my house. So he was like, what a ridiculous thing, how can you say this in the modern era? That was his reply. And I told that just like you sees them as untouchable, we see you Malayali Brahmins as untouchable, that's the logic. And this guy told immediately that then you are scheduled tribe people for us. Govan Brahmins are scheduled tribe people for Malayalam Brahmins. That's the narrative which he built. So we could see how even in the AI spaces, if you give resumes having Chamar or having Dalit surnames, they translate into Chamar into Sharma all of a sudden, the CV. So you could see even how the algorithm AI spaces are in a way reinforcing caste pedagogies on a daily basis. So cyberspace and caste is another area where annihilation of caste has to be looked at, is also what I think. And to end with, I'll be also looking at this discussion on making Ambedkar and Islamophobic. So recently we could see that how to not read Ambedkar is something which emerged after the author's discussion on how to read Ambedkar per se. So we could see that these forces always trying to make Ambedkar an anti-national, courting the mere introduction of the bill with related to uniform civil code. And I'm damn sure that if Ambedkar was alive during the regime of BJP, he would be the first person to say about or write about Dalit Muslim solidarity, definitely. I'm sure that Ambedkar would be the first person in front of the CAA NRC protest which would have happened. I'm damn sure about the same. So in order to divide us in the lines of what is being a major strength and the solidarity between us when these people comes from with such agendas. I just remember about my grandmother who doesn't know anything about Ambedkarism, but whenever an issue happens, the first thing she says is Ende Padachone or Mambartha Tangalai. This is the first thing I have never seen her she saying that Guru Ayyappa or some sort of Hindu holy gods, so or Brahma or something. Because she was clever enough to annihilate caste within her mindset. So I could relate this politics deep rooted within the Dalit subaltern communities, and I could say that those who read these mere portions, just like Meena have clearly portrayed, they are actually in a way they should start read the works in large, which is never possible. Just like you cannot find democracy in Mahabharata, Ramayana or Smritis, you can't find Islamophobia in Ambedkar. That's as simple as that, I think. So coming to an end, I truly believe that this mission of translating Ambedkar is a global mission of knowledge production. It's a mission to have global philosophies of Ambedkar and how this world is being reimagined by the intellectual space. So when the central government tries to always put forth all the names to Hindi, even of that NGNR regions to Hindi, we Dalit people and Muslim community and all these publishing house which also have marginalized people as head persons are trying to translate into French when they reduce us to Hindi, we are trying to translate our words to foreign languages, which is also in another way politics of language, which I think. So I would like to end up with this very beautiful reel, which I recently saw that of a very old woman when asked about whether you worship Hanuman, replying that I don't worship Hanuman because he can just lift a mountain, whereas my Dr. B.R. Ambedkar could lift thousands and millions of people's lives by mere pen. So that was her reply. So for all the solidarities, political solidarities coming forth, and for all the fight against Hindutva, let's all read, reread Ambedkar and take this mission forward. Jai Bhim to everyone. Thank you.